Hello everyone and welcome to the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. So as you can see, the other chair is empty. Jeff will be here in just a moment. We are just having a couple appointments running a little behind today. But we are on chapter 8 of Be Obsessed or Be Average. So this is such a fun book to go through, guys. I highly recommend if you don't have this one already, you need to buy it because there's some good stuff in here that we haven't gone over in the show that would be very beneficial to you as well. So this chapter is mostly about obsessed with sales. So sales affects everybody, no matter what industry that you're in. You're always having to sell something. If you're on a date, you're having to sell yourself to the other person to show that you are the right person. If you are meeting somebody for a job, you have to sell yourself to the owner to show that you are the best person for that spot. So no matter where you're at and what's going on, you're constantly having to sell something. So people do business with people that they know, like, and trust, and people can like a product or a service and still buy. However, if people don't like the person, they'll never buy from that person. Or when it comes to recruiting, you will never be able to recruit that person because they're like, man, I really don't like this person, and if I have to see them every day, I don't want to do that. Heck no. And you'll see this happen often. Like, a common mistake that I see with people in network marketing is like they almost push too hard to the point where they're insulting somebody and then asking them, you should do this business with me. Be like, I literally have sat here for 30 minutes and you have insulted me this entire time. Why the hell would I want to do business with you? And that's something that you have to pay attention to. Are you offending people? Do people like you? And if you say no to any of those, you need to work on a couple of things with yourself, which, funny enough, that will be our next book that we're going over with John Maxwell, Winning with People. So if those are some things we need to work on, we will cover that in the next book. Get obsessed with your product. You need to be engaged and passionate about what you're selling and make sure, and so to make sure that you are continuing to engage with sales, ask yourself these questions. Is what I'm doing every day making a difference for the better? Do I love my products? Do I love selling my products? Do I own my own products? Have I insisted that family buy my products, and should people get into debt for my products? Do I continue to call people back after they told me that they are not interested? And could I charge double for my product and it still makes sense for the cost? Hello from Atlanta. So if you answered yes to every single question, you are the pit test and are ready for the race around the track. If you can't say yes to each of these questions, you're not completely sold on your product. And if you and your team don't believe in what you're selling, your efforts will break down and you will miss sales unnecessarily. So when Jeff and I got into a company, at one point we probably looked at 20 companies a while back, and we're trying to figure out which company do we want to get back into, because we wanted to get back into direct sales, but we're trying to figure out which one is going to be the right fit. And one of the things that we talked about that was absolutely necessary is we had to like the product. It didn't matter how they paid, what the bonuses are, what types of trips there were. We had to love the product, and there had to be a need for it, and we had to it had to be sincere. Like, I didn't want to have to put on a face just so people be like, here, buy this useless product that may not actually help you. No, we don't like to do that. So that's something that you have to ask yourself, because whenever you feel that way, it's going to come out in your presentation and people are going to be able to tell. Hello.
Hello.
You got some room there? Awesome. All right, so all the way is the only way to close. So if you are not obsessed with closing the deal, you won't. So most common asked question that we hear from people is how do I close? Well, the biggest thing is that to start off that question is you have to actually make sure that you end your question with how you ask them to get on the phone in the first place. We like to use the do me a favor script, which is, hey, could you do me a favor? I just started working on something outside of my full-time job, and I'd like to show it to you so that way if you run into the right person, you can refer me. Now what that does, it kind of takes the pressure off of the prospect that you're getting in front of, and now you could use this with people that you know or people that you've just met. And at the end of the presentation, once you show them what you do, you want to ask this question on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being you could refer me somebody, or 10 being you have an interest in this yourself, where are you at? And then from there, you can gauge whether or not they're just going to send you referrals or whether or not they are interested themselves, and they'll be able to let you know. So, push yourself and others with accountability. So first off, you should never, ever lose your target, and that is a definition of failure. So instead, push yourself to increase action, and through that activity, you inspire others to do the same. Reward those who achieve and penalize those who do not. So since Grant owns a company that has everything to do with sales, he pushes everybody very, very hard. He believes in micromanaging in his office. He's like, I'm going to watch people and I'm going to push them and challenge them to do better. However, in network marketing, it's slightly different. You still can challenge certain people, but only if you have their permission. If somebody wants to go on a run, if they want to do better, you got to ask them, I'm like, do I have your permission to push you? And if it's needed, how would you like me to do it? Because also depending on their personality, you could blow somebody completely out, because you got to remember that this is not a job like a normal job. This is voluntary. Like with Grant, these people work for him. If they don't produce, he fires them. He's like, you're not doing well and you're affecting the rest of the group. You need to go. So in this business, it's all voluntary, and you got to remind yourself that these are not people. You are not their manager. You are the leader. And you need to lead by example and then inspire them too. But for the people who are running, and like I said, you need to ask for permission first before you push, and make sure that you understand what is really going on. Don't just assume, ask questions, and also don't make it public. Like, don't be in a large group of people and then ask all these questions about, why aren't you coming to this? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? There might be something else going on that you don't know, and you want to have a private conversation with them and just say, hey, you know what? I'm noticing you're not showing up to things. I noticed you're not doing this call, and I noticed you're not doing any presentations. I'm like, would you like to meet for coffee or maybe meet for dinner so we can talk? I just want to catch up with you and see how you're doing. That alone shows that you care, for one, and two, it's a way to actually see what's happening with the person, and if there is something going on, that way you could carry on and actually figure out, how can we resolve this, or how can we make it better to get you back on track. So with that, that's pretty much what I got for this chapter. Jeff, I left off, and we are at quantify your success.
So here's what I got out of this chapter. This was kind of the big one for me, just because I come from a background of sales. Danielle, how are you? How's Florida? Hopefully opening soon. So obsessed with sales. Sales affects absolutely everything and every person, every company, every industry, the entire economy. So we're kind of in a sales-driven, world. So being that we're in a sales-driven world and being that we're in an economic world, it's something you have to keep track of personally, what you're doing. Sales is basically the lifeblood of any company. The most important line in your company is the revenue line, like how much is coming in. But in the beginning, your company, if you're in direct sales network marketing, if you're trying to recruit people, if you're trying to build a team, the most important thing that you can track is your activity. He says, I didn't get into sales because I liked it. I got into it to survive. That was Grant Cardon. Why does he say that? He goes, this is something I absolutely loved. He goes, but what I realized is it was the driving factor. If it's the driving factor, that's what you have to get good at. So a lot of people are like, well, I don't necessarily like sales. I don't like this, but I really want to do good in network marketing. Then you're going to have to learn how to do it. That's unfortunate. That might not be the most popular statement in the world, but that's just the way it is. If you want to get fit, you're going to have to control what you eat. There's no other way around it. You can't outrun your fork, just like you can't outrun your bad financial decisions. You have to figure out how to budget and make the most of the money that you're making until you make more. And if you can't make the most of the little money you have, you won't get the big money. That's just kind of common knowledge and success. So it says you need to become obsessed with making new customers and bringing in new money. So that's really the key to building a successful, I'm getting asked right now, just got asked this morning, well, how'd you get all your leads? Well, how did you do this? Well, how did you do that? Well, the leads that I produced, for those of you who know this and don't know this, I have 315 leads that have come in the last 60 days. I produced them, I created them on Facebook, and there's ways to do that. Why did I know how to do that? Because I understand sales. I understand where people are looking and why they're looking, and I basically put out messages that drive traffic to me. Get obsessed with your product. Ask your team the following questions. So really you need to ask yourself this. Is what I'm doing making things better and making a difference? Is what I'm doing making things better and making a difference? So, is your product, is your company, are you doing things that basically help the world, or are you just taking? Do you love your product? Do you own your product? Have I insisted that my family actually has the product as well? If you have a product that's that good and your family, friends, people around you don't want anything to do with it, you kind of need to question one or two things. A, is the product really valid? And B, do the people know what they're talking about? I mean, there are families, there are friends that just don't get it. I totally understand that. And there are products out there that just, obviously, I've got a friend that's in an eyelash company. If she went to sell her eyelash company to her son, he's probably not going to get it. It just doesn't make sense. So this comes down to there are certain people. But should he know about it? Yes. Can you have an intelligent conversation with somebody about it? Yes. But it shouldn't be the only conversation you have, and it shouldn't dominate every conversation that you're talking about. Do I continue to call people back after they've told me they're really not looking? Well, again, it depends on what you're marketing and how you're marketing. Could I change double for my product and still make the cost? So basically, he's like, could you charge twice as much and still make the product make sense? I mean, I happen to have a company, and I know several of you do, that honestly, we could probably charge 3 times, maybe 4 times as much as what's being charged, and it would still be a good value. There are very few things out there that you could do that with, and people could still get their money's worth. In fact, I wish they would do that and then up the commission, because it would cut out a whole bunch of people that, it'd just make it easier. A major failure of sales organizations is talking to clients but never presenting the figures. Okay, so I see this all the time. Presenting the figures means 2 things to me inside of direct sales. Number 1, the figures of how much you get paid when you perform. How much you get paid when you perform. What do you get paid when you sign somebody up and they buy product? What do you get paid when you get a customer? I'll be real honest, the majority of the people I talk to, they can't tell me how to make money in their company. Well, I think, sort of, kind of, and then there's this thing that you got it, and that, and then, well, you have to do this for, well, I'm not really sure. That's how, and I just don't understand why people, well, you don't even know how you get paid. That would be a good thing to figure out. How many people does it take to break even? Like, how many customers does it take? How much volume does it take? How many people do you have to recruit to get a check inside of your network? I don't know. Well, I mean, think about this. If you don't know that figure, that's why it's so hard for you to recruit other people, because you're still not knowing. It's something you need to know. A study done shows that 70% of the people never ask for the sale. 70% never ask for the sale. So I'll give you an interesting situation. Last night, I was put on a 3-way call. It was late. It was like 9-ish. Put on this 3-way call. I do the we're talking, I do the presentation. And here's the deal. This lady basically stops us halfway through and goes, I know 6 people who would need this. I have a neighbor down the street that came down last week and told me a story, and she needs this. Not only does she need it, she actually would know people to sell it to. And then I was going through the kinds of people that we're looking for, and she's like, I know all those people. I've got all those connections. I could totally do this. I was not the person who knew her. It was my friend knew her, and this was third party. So guess what I did? I said, look, you don't know me. I mean, I would love to have you come on the team. This would be amazing. But you don't know me. You really know her. I said, so, we're building this together. I would be here to help, but, trust-wise, this is the person you're going to go to. I said, look, here's basically the cost of, getting started, and in our company, there's a licensing fee. I said, look, here's the licensing fee to get started. It's a one-time thing. That's what basically gets you licensed. And most direct sales companies are like this. Here's the licensing fee. Here's what it costs. I said, unlike insurance, unlike real estate, unlike the mortgage business, you don't have to go to school. You don't have to take a test. You don't have to, show up to all these things. You don't have to pay E&O insurance. What I was telling her is it is a sales technique. It's sales because most people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to. If they have a long list, they're like, but if it's a short list, it's better. So that's what I was kind of, saying, hey, look, and I said, look, this is the ultimate part-time thing, and meaning direct sales, not just our company, but direct sales. This is the ultimate part-time thing if you want to get into something. And at the end, she's like, yes, I want you to send me all the information. I'll be looking all over it all tonight. Like, I'm not even going to sleep, after telling me this. She had been through some situations that we basically could help out with, and then she elaborated on all of them. So we're going to follow up with her today. Did I try to close her? No, I didn't try to get her to sign up right then. But what I did is I did tell her what it took to sign up and why, and then leave it up to her. Now, the reason I'm able to do that is because we go through so many people. Like, my activity level, or our activity level, is so high, I don't have to pressure anybody. I don't have to push anybody to do anything. I just put it out there, and if they're ready, they're ready. I'm looking for people who are ready right now. I love this guy, and I'm not going to give away his name because he's a big leader in a company. He's been around for a long time. And he says, what you're looking for is people who are at high noon. High noon means their life, their money, their entire, what they do. James is here. What's up, sir? Everything they do is in the right order, on the right time. So you're looking for people at high noon. They're ready to go right now. If somebody needs to go find a job first, that's fine. So as I'm doing this, you're constantly evaluating people's situation and saying, okay, is this person in a situation not only to get in, but are they in a situation to get in and get started? Because if your job is in jeopardy, and you have no idea if you have money coming in, and maybe the government's going to give us something, and maybe they're not. I mean, we have no idea. I have no idea what they're going to pass. I mean, it would be great if everybody got more money and checks. That's cool. I'm not against that. We personally didn't need it. And the only reason I say that is because in 2007 and 8, I went through a crash that basically wiped me out, devastated me. I went from the, big 4-bedroom home in Fishers to 6 months later living on somebody's couch and losing absolutely everything I had. All of my stuff went into storage. I know what it's like to lose everything. So I made a decision then, and I remember Jim Rohn talking about this. He goes, what if you could build a financial wall around yourself where nothing could financially get to you? Nothing. I mean, yes, if a comet hit the world, I would be down. Yes, if there was nuclear war, because people always throw in, well, what happens? Yeah, there are some limited situations, but I mean, a situation like this where, 3 months goes by or 2 months goes by and your income's completely cut off, how long can you survive? That's a good question to ask people, especially in direct sales, And here's the thing, you don't need an answer from them. You can see the look on their face. How long could you survive if no money came in? They're like, well, gosh, I hope that doesn't happen. Yeah, we all hope it doesn't happen, but the likelihood of somebody getting sick, the likelihood of an accident, the likelihood of stuff that happens is really strong. Robin, how are you? So, a result means the sales cycles are longer than necessary. I don't know why I wrote that. So that was probably a note to myself. Sometimes I'm like, I'll take notes on these books and then I'll make a note to myself that has no reference to anything else and I can't remember. It's worse when I used to write notes, because when I used to write notes, I couldn't read it and I had no idea what it meant. So, and my English was bad. My English is still bad, but like writing, it's horrible. Like I had no idea what I had down.
It's considerably better than what it was.
You read 500 books, it helps. If you don't ask for the order, you cannot close the sale. If you don't ask, you can't close the sale. So I'm going to give you some things. These are sales techniques. First of all, meet, greet, bond. Meet, greet, bond is the very first thing you have to do when you're having a conversation about anything. I see most new people fail at this. Javelin, how are you? So most people fail at this part. When you first sit down with somebody, meet, greet, bond. How are you? What's going on? Catch up. I don't care if it's on the phone. I don't care, whatever. For instance, go back to this phone call I had with, this third-party call that I did. The very first question I asked is, how do you guys know each other? And they kind of went into that, and I was like, oh, okay, so you guys have known each other for a long time. I said, well, all right, well, what's your background? What do you do? And they went into, these different things that they did. Here's the funny thing. The friend that put me on the phone with this lady didn't know all the stuff that she had gone through. And she kind of elaborated on the fact that she, had cancer and, lost everything and had to start over and had to move from Indianapolis to Kansas City to, basically she's just south of Chicago, but on the Indiana line. And we talked about how crazy the taxes are there. And then there's, something called a downtown city tax or something like that. That's another 10%. So she's like, basically, if you want to buy anything, don't. She didn't say that, but it's super expensive to buy stuff there. So, if you don't present your proposal, you cannot close. If you don't deal with the decision maker, you cannot close. This is another issue. A lot of times, and this in the beginning, sales technique, right? I would try to meet with one of the spouses, but what I didn't realize is a lot of families, a lot of people, one person deals with the finances, the other one doesn't. Meaning makes the decisions, knows where stuff is, knows how much money they have, does the budget. And, I tend to gravitate towards the person who's kind of like, yeah, let's go, but doesn't check the account before they go do it. So I realized really quickly, I started meeting with all these people, and that was a problem. So meet, greet, bond in the beginning, getting to know somebody. You do your presentation, and there's 5 things to a presentation. This is something we teach inside the MLM school that we have online. So every Sunday we go over basically there's 10 classes. We go over one of the specific things you need to know to be able to build a significant team, to be able to recruit, to be able to do this on a regular basis. And one of those 10 is the presentation, and there's 5 things you need to cover. So real quick, I just want to cover 5 things that you need to go over in a presentation. Number 1, Chuck, how are you? Number 1 in a presentation, you need to go over the company. You have to be able to convey to the person that the company is solid, that the company is a good company, that the company is going to be there, down the road, something to help. If people don't feel that the company is really solid and the people behind it are solid, then they question it. If they question it, let's just say on a scale of 1 to 10, if they're like a 5, they're like, I'm not sure about this, they're not going to make a decision. People don't make a decision unless they're sure, right? So you have to get to the point where they're sure. How do you get somebody from a I don't know about you to a 10? You basically tell facts and stories. Hey guys, let me tell you the story how this company began. Here's how the company began, and now here's what they're doing now. They make $800 million, and that's a fake number. I don't know what number they do, but you say they make $800,000, and they're in this many countries, and their rep base is this big, and they contribute to this, and it's really half a dozen things. Do I have to tell them the square footage of the building? No. Do I have to tell them every single product that they make? No. Do I have to give every detail of every person that's ever come into the company? No. It's a half a dozen things. Half a dozen. That means 6 or less. For those of you. In sales terms, it's probably 12 or less, because anytime you say 6, anytime you say half a dozen, to a salesperson, they add in all this extra stuff that they don't need, but half a dozen is good. After you get done with the company, the next thing you need to go over is the need in the marketplace, or what the marketplace is like. The need in the marketplace is like, if you're selling weight loss, you're like, look guys, it's pretty obvious that there's a weight problem in the United States, right? If you're in the United States. And most people say, oh yeah. I said, did you realize, McDonald's they test food in certain states. If you live in one of those states, the reason they test food in those states is because people are overweight in those states. Indiana's one of them. Texas is another one. They have a lot of obese people and a lot of people who eat McDonald's. So they actually test food in those states. That'd be something good to bring up because it's kind of like factual. It is factual. It's not kind of, it is factual. And it generally gets people to laugh. And here's the thing, if you're presenting, if you're in sales and you can get people to laugh in the first 30 seconds of talking, it's very hard to dislike and it's very hard not to listen to somebody that makes you laugh. That's why we go to comedy shows. That's why we like sitcoms. That's why we like jokes. If you kind of look on social media and Twitter and all these different platforms, the people who are entertaining and telling jokes and making you laugh is who we gravitate to. Kevin Hart, Bill Burr. I'm just trying to think of some of the other people who do. I mean, there's tons of people, but you understand what I'm saying. So, the need in the marketplace. The next, you go to the products. Half a dozen think about the products. Well, what if you have 10,000 products? What are the categories? If you're in a grocery store and you said, hey, can you describe the grocery store to me? Are you going to walk up to the very first, you're going to walk up to the alcohol aisle and tell me every single bottle and every single brand and every single maker of all alcohol? No, you'd be here forever. You'd be like, let me give you a general overview of the product line of a grocery store. They have an alcohol section. They have a bakery section that has bread and stuff like that. They have, do you see how I'm doing it in sections? That's how I would describe a company. You know, we have these different sections, you know, whether it's makeup and hair care, whether it's personal items, soap, shampoo, stuff you use every day, whether it's vitamins and shakes, and we have all this stuff. And then what I would do is I would isolate one product. I would isolate one product. Chuck, how are you? Why do you want to isolate one product? You want to isolate one thing because that's the thing that whatever kind of would affect the most people, whatever you kind of know that they would have an interest in. Now, if you only have one product, you only have one thing to talk about. But if you have a bunch of products, isolate one thing or one category and say, well, the reason, and then the stories come in. Why that category? Why did it make sense? Also, if it makes sense, you'd also go over the money. Now, how do I determine all this? Well, this is something that I've done for people. I've helped write the presentations. I've helped make the presentations for companies. I've designed a lot of quick flip books that are 15 minutes. I've helped a person go from 0 to full-time in probably a 6-month window. I'm doing this, so this is something I have some experience in, and it's just because I've presented so many times in so many different areas. You know, we have a holistic health company, we have a real estate company, I've been in the loan business, we have a consulting company. So after you read this many books and you've seen presentations in multiple companies, and I get pitched on a regular basis. You know, I got called the other night by 2 guys. One was an Amway Crown. Former Amway Crown. By the way, if you don't know what that means, that's like the largest pin you can possibly get in a company. And this guy had an organization twice the size, or he had twice the qualifications of what a Amway Crown ambassador was. So I think it's like 40 frontline legs that have all broken at the top level. I mean, it was ridiculous. And then he put me on the phone with another guy who was a diamond. So those are the guys who are pitching me, you know, multi-millionaire and a millionaire. So I get pitched on a regular basis. So I see these presentations. And funny enough, their presentation covered all this, but it was like ping pong ball all over the place. I was like, you know what, if you just run this in order, we were on the phone for 1 hour and 15 minutes. In the end, I said, look, I'm going to go look it up myself. So, you know, it got me interested enough to at least know what it was. And I like to know what companies are and what products are out there and what they do, because I'll be real honest, if I come across somebody that doesn't have an upline, that doesn't have any help, that's completely lost, and the product line really isn't a good fit for them, but they just got in because of the money, what I'll do is I'll just kind of move forward. I'll not be able to meet, oh no, okay, so my 1 o'clock switched, no problem. So if you deal with a decision maker, if you don't follow up, so we're at the product. The next thing outside of the product is what? The compensation. Briefly go over the compensation. So guys, here's basically how you make money in this company. You can market the product, or you can recruit a team that markets the product. By the way, the dividing line between what makes a company legitimate in the industry and what doesn't is you have to be able to market a product or service and only be paid off of the product and service marketed, not them just signing up and getting in. Meaning if there's no product or there's no service that's sold at all, then that's the line that the FTC is looking for, like, hey, this doesn't make any sense. Another thing to look at is, to make a company legitimate, is do they have a customer base? Is it all reps on the inside, meaning did everybody sign up for this just to sign up for this, or are there real customers? The companies that have gotten busted in the industry either had no product and service at all, which means it's just absolutely not a good thing. And that's one of the things. Hey, just put your money in. You know, I've gotten pitched several times. Oh man, we're going to do this thing. Great. Do you have a website? No. Do you have the product you're talking about? No. We're just gathering money. No, you're stealing money, stupid. That's different. Like venture capital and mezzanine financing is different than pitching individual people. You're stealing money. That's not what we do. And that's a good sign, you know, if they just like, this is what it is, you don't have to do anything, that's kind of scary. Mm-hmm. So they have to have a legitimate product, and then the comp plan has to be built off of the product being sold. No product, no real legitimate company. And that's, you know, I weigh this out every single time anybody pitches me anything. Here's the math that I'm doing in my head. Is the company legit? Is the need a real need, or is it just based on money? Meaning, is this just about people making money, or does this product line actually help people and do something outside of the compensation plan? If the product wouldn't be marketed without the compensation plan, then you have a garbage. You have to have real products. The compensation plan has to make sense. How many people does it take? What do you make? This is just kind of how I, you know, would explain something. And here's the thing. I'm not over the top excited. I want to give the cliff notes. Hey guys, I just want to give the cliff notes to see if you have interest, any interest. And this is just a conversation and the reason why I'm so focused on, I want to create a higher level person inside of the industry instead of a bunch of idiots just spamming people with links. You know, just go look at my website, just go look at my, and that's a problem in the industry because we try to sell people on, well, you don't have to know nothing. You just have to send out the link and people sign up, which, you know, and then people chase people for months and realize that it doesn't work. And they're struggling and they're like, hey, this isn't happening the way that I thought it was supposed to happen. Compensation plan, simple. How do you break even? How do you make money? And then there's more levels. There's more levels, there's more money. I'm just giving you an overview. I'm not trying to sell you on it. We have bonuses, we have trips, we have incentives. That's all you have to say. You don't have to go into any elaborate detail. By the way, if you mention the following, BV, PV, GV, one leg, two leg, three legs, you know, we're a binary, we're a matrix, we're a forced matrix, we're a unilevel. If you mention any of that crap, those are technical terms inside the industry. If you're mentioning any of that in a presentation, it's too much. It doesn't make any sense. Unless you're pitching network marketers who understand the industry. There's out of 50 conversations I have, there may be one or two people that I can have that conversation with. But if you're mentioning any of those terms, take all the lingo out. Anything that involves lingo in the end, there's just no reason. And if you're struggling with this, and you're like, wow, this is a lot, this is too, I don't know. This is what makes the people who make money different from the people who don't make money, because they understand this stuff. The last thing is the time and the talent. And then here's a sales technique. So we're talking about sales. How do you close? Everybody's, how do you close? How do you close? When you get to the end, there are questions, specific questions, and you have to ask these in order. And it just takes time to get to a point where you feel comfortable enough to ask these that it makes sense. And the last thing is okay, is what we're doing make sense? They're like, yeah, I can see it. I said, okay, do you see the opportunity, first of all? Like, do you personally see the opportunity? So this is a technique I'd use if I know the person. I know the person and I want to sign this person up. So does this make sense to you? Yeah. I said, well, I mean, first of all, do you see the opportunity that we're talking about? If they say yes and they see it, great, no problem. I said, well, you know the cost is this, and you know to activate is this, and you know to make money is this. I'm telling them those three things, and I'll actually repeat that several times inside of a presentation. Why? Because I'm basically getting them to think through the decision while the presentation's going on. That's what's actually, if you look at psychology, that's what's actually happening. The reason why in a longer sales presentation, they mentioned that several times, is the first time you mention it, you're like, I wonder if it's worth it. The second time you're like, okay, well, I would buy the product for this. The third time they mention it, they're like, well, I see other people shaking their head too, and it looks like other people would buy this, and if other people buy it, then it obviously works. Maybe I should do it. I wonder if I should do it. And they're having all these conversations in their head. Jonathan, how are you? They're having all these conversations in their head as the presentation's going on. So that way when you get to the end, it's not a first-time thought, should I do this? Some people have already made a decision. Some people are like, I really need some more information. I better not jump into one more thing. So we get to the end. Do you see the opportunity? Yeah. Or does it make sense? Yes. Do you see the opportunity? Yes. Now the reason I say does it make sense, if they have a question, that's where to handle it. Does this make sense? Well, I really don't understand the money. Well, what part of the money did you understand? Well, how are you making money? Are you selling the product or are you recruiting people? Well, you can do either. How does that work? Let me flip over a piece of paper and draw it out for you. This is where it helps to understand the plan. I don't want to go all the way to $100,000 a year. I just need to go to breaking even. I just need to get to about 500 to 1,000. Some people, depending on if you have experience in the industry, here's how to get to 5,000, here's how to get to 10,000, and here's why it's a lot less work than it is in wherever else you've looked. Once you get the explanation, now does it make sense? Yeah, it totally makes sense. Okay, do you see the opportunity? Most people skip doesn't make sense, skip the opportunity, skips the third question, which is, can you afford to take advantage of it? Can you afford to take advantage of it? Basically is saying, do you want to sign up and can you pay for it? Do you want to sign up and can you pay for it? And it's just a nicer way to ask. Do you see the opportunity basically is like an IQ test? Are you smart enough to understand what we're doing? And do you see opportunity? Or do you not understand business at all and you're a W-2 employee for the rest of your life and you're always going to struggle? Because a lot of people are in that situation. That's what you're asking them. You're just saying it much nicer. Michael, what's up, man? Hopefully the gym's will open here in a little bit. So, once you go through these questions, the last question that we went over is, can you afford to take advantage of it? If they ask, well, what exactly, how much? Again, this is what it, costs to basically get your licensing. This is what it costs to activate. Every company's a little bit different. This is what it takes to get your product. This is what it takes to get this. Here's the cost that you're looking at. Just, here's the thing. I'm giving them what it takes to get started, what it takes to get a position, what it takes to get in. I'm not giving them a college education. I'm not trying to get them to buy every product we have. I'm just putting them in the system. The system should be set up, if you're in a great company, the system should be set up to basically what they call upsell. Upsell means, as I believe, I will buy more. I will engage more. I found that most people in the industry try to get people to buy in too high. It's the same thing that, new people who have never dated anybody before, they go too far too fast. It's kind of like the 13-year-old, junior high crush. Rather than saying, hey, I kind of like you, they're like, I love you and I'm going to marry you and this is it and we're going to get married and we're going to get a house. And the person at 13 is like, this person is nuts. Like, I don't want to be around this person. That same kind of over the top is what people do in direct sales. So this is the stuff we teach. Like what I'm going over, I'm trying to go over it in 10 minutes rather than over, class after class after class. But this is the stuff we teach inside that Sunday school. Not Sunday school, but a school that's on Sunday night for direct sales MLM recruiting training. But this is the technique. Those are the questions you should ask. If you've never heard this before, guess what? You should. If you're struggling, this is why it works so well. To kind of finish off this sales, and we've gone a little bit long, but that's okay. It's Wednesday, right? Halfway through the week, right? Yeah. I don't even know what day it is. So push yourself and others for accountability. 50% of salespeople don't hit their quotas. Why don't they hit their quotas? Most people don't even know what their quotas are. They don't look at the numbers. They don't set goals. So if you don't set a goal on how many people you're going to talk to in a month, guess what? I know what you're going to do. You're not going to talk to enough people. Why aren't you going to talk to enough people? Because you don't even know where the hell you're at halfway through the month. At the end of the month, how many people have you talked to? I don't know.
Or you trick yourself into thinking you did a lot more than what you did. So when you write all this stuff down, I might think that I'm busy during the month, but I write everything down in a planner. And if I look back at the rest of my month at the end of the month and I look back at everything and I'm like, and I thought I was busy and I thought I did a lot of presentations, the numbers do not lie. So that's a way to track it. So anytime that we have somebody who comes up and they say, this is just isn't working, I'm not getting any people, I'm doing all this work, and nothing is happening, I'm like, did you write down all your appointments? Did you write down how many presentations and on which day? I want to see these numbers. And they're like, and a lot of times when we go back and look at the numbers, and I'm like, well, that's the reason you only did 4 appointments this week or this month. I'm like, you only presented to 4 people. I'm like, you have to bump up that number to get people to sign up. I'm like, you got to go through more people. So anywho.
Demand the sales quotas be met by holding yourself accountable and just asking the question, like, what are you going to do? Don't lower your dream or your goal. Instead, increase the activity. When people don't hit their goals, ask questions, reward those who achieve and believe in those who do not. You can go to your team for you can't go to your team for coaching. So this is one thing that he talks about. He's like, you can't go to your team for coaching. Hey, what do you think I need to be doing? Like, that doesn't work, because basically what you're saying is I'm unequipped to train you. It's actually something you have to go either outside of your company, outside of your network, and get a coach, and or you need a mentor that's making more money than you are, that's at the level you want to get to. So if there's 10 levels in the company and you're level 1, you want to look at least a couple levels above. At least a couple levels above, because they're going to see a bigger picture of what's going on, and they're going to be able to spot what you may be doing or not doing that's stopping you from getting to where you want to go. If you're at the top of your organization and you can't be your own boss. If you need someone to hold you accountable, then join a mastermind group or get a personal coach to report to. That's Grant Cardon. He said, if people can't handle the pressure or refuse to contribute, we ask them to leave. Obviously, he's in a job situation. He can ask people to leave. You don't do that inside of direct sales and network marketing. The average person inside of direct sales, average person, signs up, says they're going to do something, and that's the last time you hear from them. Now, some of them will keep buying stuff because they just like the product. And here's the thing. That was probably their intention to begin with. They're like, you know what? I really just want this product at a discount. I really just kind of want to be part of this group. I think I might want to do it, but I don't know. They have no intention of actually doing it. They have no intention of actually making money. Just because they sign up doesn't mean they're going to do something. It means they could. What your job is to determine the difference, like by asking questions and looking at what they actually do. Hey, do you really want to do this? Yes. Are you willing to put together a list? No. That's a person who's not willing to move forward. What's up with that? Ask questions. Quantify your success. Numbers don't lie. People do. Show me the numbers. That's basically what Grant says. So when somebody's like, I'm not getting to where I want to go, I kind of ask some questions first, and I'm like, are you really at a point where you want coaching, or are you just complaining? Most people are just complaining. They actually don't want coaching. They don't want help. They just want to whine, and they want to cry. And I take that a little bit. I was like, okay, everybody can have their, bad moment. But if you don't get past it, and the next conversation's like that, and the next conversation's like that, and the next conversation's like that, then I'm going to be really, really, really busy when you call. Your livelihood. And I will take a friendship call, but I'm just talking about if you just want to call and cry about what's going on. Depends on being obsessed. Okay, your livelihood depends on being obsessed with results, and you can predict your income, expenses, and cash flow. Get obsessed, have a sales meeting every day. So he goes into sales meeting. I'm going to kind of forward this off. Sell by example. Sell by example. So if you want people to learn how to recruit, you've got to go recruit. Network marketing and direct sales and recruiting and team building is almost 100% like pure leadership in the best form, because I can't force anybody to do anything. I can't fire anybody. I can't make somebody do something. It has to be done by example. So you're either going to be a great example of what to do, or you're going to be a lesson of what not to do. And I was having a conversation with, another person, I got to get off the phone and make these calls. So that's what we got for today. We went way long. Appreciate everybody being on. I hope that helped out. Iggy's here. What's up?
Oh, also, if you guys would like our notes, I will put a link in the comments below. We're taking notes on every chapter for these books that we are going through. So if you haven't done that yet, I'll put a link below. Also, if you guys would like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go search MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show and go subscribe. That way, if you ever miss one or would like to go back, I do have them marked of which book we are going over. So if you ever want to go back to some other videos, you can do that. But with that, we got to run. We got appointments today, and we will see you guys tomorrow.
Awesome.